Take 13. You're on the air.
Oh, and that'll make it on the air. Thank you, Neil. A little unrehearsed opening there. Hey, welcome to Mike the Baptist. I'm Mike the Baptist, and that was Neil.
Hey.
The Andrews, who did that little
I see what you did.
unrehearsed opening there. I say unrehearsed. We've actually started over 3 or 4 times here because I keep doing things wrong with the equipment. Some days are that way. Anyway, welcome, Neil.
Hi.
Back to the program. Welcome to H.D. Jones.
Good to be here.
Welcome to all of you who may have stumbled upon this to listen, watch, and or otherwise. We're glad you came back and look forward to a nice little session. Hey, we got an email. You know, I've been barking to people about send us an email. And with a question for the people that you see here or hear here. And we do have one, but first, this is the one I talked about a week or two ago where they saw me in person and they began saying, I got a question, and they just started asking it. And I said, no. I've been asking specifically on the program, send us an email. So I'm not going to use it unless I get it in writing. So we all laughed about it. I think I laughed more than they did, but they actually sent me an email now. It's a question for the people here. I think it's directed to you guys because it says pastors, and I am not one. I may answer it anyway, though. But anyway, so I'm going to ask this on their behalf, and I didn't know whether to use their name or not. They didn't give me clearance or anything.
Clarence wrote you a letter?
Clarence sent me if they sue us, they sue us. It's Lloyd Asp. It's somebody we know. We all know Lloyd Asp. The father of someone we know. See, there's another. I don't know if I need to say their name either. Anyway, here's the question.
So Lloyd Asp asked a question.
He did.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
Say that
Careful.
3 times.
Right?
Anyway, I'm going to ask it to you as I promised I would if we ever got one of these. So now I'm going to encourage you now to send us an email, comments at mikethebaptist.com with a question like this.
Are you talking to us?
Not you,
but
you can send a question for yourself too. But anyway, send us one and we'll ask it on the air. Comments at mikethebaptist.com, www.mikethebaptist.com. It's a website. Go there and look around. These guys' pictures are on there and such. Here's the question from Lloyd Asp. I was wondering if pastors find it as difficult to share Jesus with family members and friends. And I assume that means as with people that you don't know. Why don't you guys answer that?
Absolutely, because most of my family can't believe I'm a preacher anyway.
Not just your family.
I know, right?
Just acquaintances in general.
Yeah, I see people from high school and they're like, you do what? But yeah, I think it's difficult. You know, Jesus talks about a prophet's not welcomed in his own hometown. And so there's just that familiarity. You know, if you were the goofball in your family, you're always going to be seen as the goofball. I don't care if you're the millionaire goofball, you're still the goofball. So
right.
I think there's just that familiarity. And it seems like, and this is weird because you probably talk about a lot of personal stuff, but it's so personal that it's almost kind of private. So you have this kind of relationship where, yeah, we're family, but we don't talk about that stuff as a family, I guess, too. So
yeah, and I was wondering earlier when we talked a little bit about it in the green room, if you might find yourself tailoring your answer and just your answer or what you say to somebody like your family or
right.
somebody you're close to, whereas otherwise you just let it roll without that being on your mind, I guess.
Yeah, I think you can almost be hindered by knowing too much of their story.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't know what their story is, then you can just shoot from the hip, and if it hits them, it hits them. But if you know their story now, all of a sudden, now you're just being hateful, you know, when you start talking about addiction, because you know I have an addiction problem. Mm-hmm. So I think that can also play into it.
Interesting. Yeah.
I was thinking about. I'm going to put my glasses on because I made a note real quickly as HD was talking. Oh yes, one of the slightly related but interesting. One of the first times I went out on visits with Pastor HD, we went to a local hospital. Was one of the places, and within 15 minutes, there were 3 separate people that saw the two of us together And each one of them went, "Hey, HD," and then each one of them would look at me and go, "What are you doing with him?" So it's that thing that
Yeah,
you were talking about. It's
exactly.
people that know you.
Yeah.
But yes, I've always found that to be the most challenging thing, is trying to share with your family or your really close friends, because they've got what they think about you, or who the person is that you are is already established.
Well, it's vice versa, because you're looking at them and you have your idea who they are already
Sure.
too, I guess.
But I think when you're talking to somebody that you don't know, you're still you're trying to do, but it's fresh. You're trying to assess the conversation and kind of what level you interact with them on, and
Right.
is it someone that's living on the street, and you're going to talk to them differently? Probably you'll talk more about provision. I don't know, but I think that's part of sharing, is trying to assess the situation to know how to steer the conversation
Right.
and make it acceptable. Or
I would say our best efforts with people we really know is to live it out.
Just let
Yes.
them see it.
Just let them see it,
Yeah.
because, I mean, family can, well, we have this saying in our world, family sure is fun.
we say that about a lot of
Because
things.
again, depending on your birth order, depending on
Mm-hmm.
what silly things you've done in the past, there's all this, there's this whole package that comes with whomever you are. And I think when you start talking relationship with Christ, then it's like, oh, you think you're better than me or whatever. And I think the biggest thing that you can do is just live it out. If
Well, I found out on YouTube you can print out a script of these things.
Yes, you can.
of what?
Of these programs, just about anything on YouTube, there's a button on there. It says transcript.
No.
So I click it one day, and by golly, there's every word we said right there
Oh,
printed
that's
out,
not
and I'm
good.
going like,
Some of it's assumed, though, too. Yep.
Okay, listen, that was a good question.
Yes, it was.
I'm a good. I know they're a devoted listener, because anything we say, careful, because they will know, and they'll call you on it. I have a question now. It's on the front porch. We're going to the front porch. I thought it'd be fun, or at least interesting, or anyway, just we'll kill a little time to talk about your pets. So what I want you to do is talk about. I want to see if you can name every pet you had since you were young. Maybe, hopefully, in chronological order, all the way up till now, and then maybe say something interesting about one of them or two of them or whatever. I mean, if it's a Wolverine, fine. Find something good to say about your Wolverine. But anyway, if the conversation gets all cattywampus, I'll reel it back in. How's that?
Sounds good.
Neil, talk about
Yeah.
your pets.
I think my first pet would be my stuffed dog, Sam.
Oh, this.
Not a real dog. No,
Well, I was
it
going
was
to say this got deep in a hurry.
no,
here.
it was a stuffed
We
animal.
need some
That was
counselors in here.
my first pet.
Okay.
And then my mom bought a poodle named Fifi.
Appropriate.
It was, that was weird. I didn't have a pet for a long time. I was out on my own, and I ended up with a homeless cat that just kind of adopted me. I named her Miss Kitty.
The visuals of my
Yeah.
The cat was leaning up sitting on the sidewalk, drunk.
What?
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, actually, the cat sat on I was living with a couple, and
A couple what?
a married couple,
Okay.
a couple. That's what. I'm sorry, we have to define everything so much. It came every day. It would come up and sit on the porch, and so I started checking it out. And its front claws had been declawed, and it had Band-Aids wrapped around it, and then it had been neutered too. It had stitches, and
His name was Lucky?
no, it's
No.
Miss Kitty.
Miss Kitty. Okay.
After Gunsmoke.
Wait a minute now.
It's after Gunsmoke. You guys.
The layers of
Yeah.
I'm
the
not
layers
sure.
of everything
I'm
happening
not
here.
sure Miss Kitty was neutered. I'm just saying.
Well, we'll have to look at it.
Okay.
One of the plot lines, yeah. Anyway, I taught her to fetch.
Huh?
She would fetch, bring things back to me.
This whole
it's
thing just
great.
keeps layering in my
She's-
head. The homeless cat that you taught to fetch.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Since then, I've become deathly allergic to cats, so I can't be around them. I don't like their attitude anyway.
Yeah.
Then we had a dog named Bear.
Uh-huh.
And
Oh, my
Bear,
daughter has a dog
Bear
named Bear.
eventually ran off, and then we had a dog. What was our next dog? Wait a minute. Oh, what was it?
I'm picturing you doing those TV commercials about
Klondike. Klondike
Oh,
was
that's
a
good ice
really
cream.
good dog.
Klondike.
It was an American Eskimo. And,
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, he was a good boy. He was real good.
Those are
And
smart dogs too, aren't they?
Very.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And now we have 2 sisters,
Uh-huh.
and that's Indy, Go, and Bella.
What are they?
They,
I know they're dogs, but I mean, are they?
yeah. No, we kind of laugh about it. They're half Blue Heeler
Okay.
and half Dachshund. See? And we just feel like that probably was not an on-purpose
A
thing.
long, short blue heeler.
Yeah, yeah. But they're fun. They're good pups. Yep.
So,
You want to talk about the cat more, don't you?
no, I'm just so confused after all of that.
Well, you
There's so
wanted
many
a
pictures
list.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it. It was great. It's just like I was thinking maybe like you had a little Shih Tzu when you were young, and he lived to be 18, and it was dear to you. But
Had a poodle, but didn't really.
poodle and a homeless
Care.
cat, and
Yeah.
all right, that's good.
I'll
But
tell
now
you
look,
after. So and before we got the pups, when Katie and I got married, she had a Boston Terrier named Milo, and I love Milo. Milo's a good dog. It's a real
those are
dog.
good little dogs too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was smart and appreciative.
Terriers seems like terriers are either so annoying you can't stand them, or they're just great little things.
Yeah.
And it sounded like you had a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that was good, Neil.
Thanks.
Very good. HD?
I had so many pets. It's not even. There's no way I could name them all. I'll just hit some highlights.
Okay.
Mostly we had a bunch because my mom ran over most of them. I mean, like literally. I mean, she would wipe out, cats, dogs, chickens, turkeys, deer. I mean, she wiped out anything. But
So you didn't get too fond of any
did
of
not
them? Is that-
did
yeah.
not. Although when Susan and I got married, we got a little black cocker spaniel, and he was paper trained because we live in a condo. And
Read
then
the paper?
yeah, and then Far Side, and then
No,
when
one,
we moved back here and we decided we were going to build a house, we were in an apartment that didn't allow us to have dogs, didn't have pets. So I took it up to my mom and dad's, and I was like, just
Oh, no.
he'll be all right outside.
I see this coming.
He'll be all right outside. Well, this dog had an affinity for doing his business, on the driveway and literally behind my dad's car every day.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I was up there and I was like, "Where's Foster?" He goes, "I don't know. Is he not here?" So we really think something happened to Foster.
Oh, he just disappeared.
Yeah, he just kind of
Think
disappeared.
your mother was involved?
It could have been.
Yeah.
It could have been.
Aw.
My sister got a little poodle when she was younger and named him Pierre. And he lived up to his name because he'd lift his leg and pee on everything
In the air.
in the air. And we came up to the house one day and knocked on the door, and my mom would walk in and she'd kick her shoes off. That little dog would run over there and just filled
it
her
up,
shoes,
yeah.
filled her shoes up, and she never knew it. And then she put them shoes on, walked around, and I was like, "This is crazy."
I ran into your mother a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
On purpose?
Told her that she shows up a lot
Yeah,
on Mike the Baptist in her stories, and
was she proud of
she
that?
even told me a couple. So,
Oh.
and then some people around her, they got to tell them something. So
Yeah.
that your
Yeah.
mother has some interesting things happen to
colorful.
her.
She's colorful, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I had a brown dog named Brownie, a black dog named Blackie. We're
Simple.
cutting edge
Oh,
names, cutting edge names there in the country.
Right.
So,
Interesting. Do you have one now?
yes, just one.
Mm-hmm.
We have Holly. She's a little Morkie. She's
Huh?
a Maltese and a Yorkie mix.
Nanu.
Ah,
Morkie,
small,
Yeah.
fuzzy dog.
9 pounds.
Yep.
She's pretty good. Although she can tell time. Every morning at 5:30 she
Yeah.
barks.
Right.
I swear that dog can tell time. I mean, the time can change. Daylight say no 5:30 she's awake.
So, like, when the time changes and goes up an hour, she waits till 5.
Oh yeah. Oh
That's
yeah.
interesting. That's pretty smart.
It's also pretty annoying.
It's both.
Yeah.
Smart and annoying.
Snoring.
Interesting. Okay, so is that your list?
Yeah, that's good enough.
We had 2 dogs when I was very small. They weren't mine. One of them I claimed as mine. I had a little black terrier of some sort named Cookie. And at some point, we picked up this other little, just ratty looking, looked like a little homeless red dog, and we named him Tiger. But now Tiger and I were big buddies. You could bounce a tennis ball through the yard, and he would catch it 6 feet in the air. He was great. Those were the first 2 pets. At some point during that same time, my folks bought, my brother and I, a mouse, a white mouse. They wouldn't let us keep it in the house, but they sold used car. They had a car lot out by the house, and they had an office. He had built an office out there, a separate building. And we'd go out there and hang out and camp out overnight, my brother and I, and do stuff out there. But anyway, they let us keep the mouse in the office building.
Name him Stuart?
I went out there one morning, and Tiger had got the mouse out of the cage, and the mouse was just a little wet ball of white hair laying in the middle of the office floor. So that's been in my head all that time. When I went out on my own, I went to UALR in Little Rock. They didn't have dorms on that campus, so I had to get an apartment and all that. Actually, I lived with an aunt or two for a while, and then I got an apartment. Anyway, I think it was a Shih Tzu. Is that the little flat-faced dogs? I think I bought a little Shih Tzu and quickly became tired of taking care of it. I gave that to my folks. I think I bought a black poodle and gave it to them, too. They kept winding up with these dogs when I was a young man that I wouldn't take care of.
Did you give it a French name like we did?
I don't even remember the other dogs' names. Actually, no, the Shih Tzu was we named it Rusty, but for some reason I always called it Rooster. It's when I was first married. So Rooster was a fun little dog, but he's kind of odd in the head. You'd be sitting in the living room watching TV, and you would hear him coming down the hall. When he got to the living room, he would jump in the air and turn sideways in the air and just land on his side and just and land in the floor in the living room. Rooster. I don't know why he did it, but he did it. Anyway, I gave him to my folks, too, at some point. That may have been after we moved to Tennessee, because I can remember going back to visit my folks, and my granddad at that time, every night before he went to bed, he would eat a bowl of cereal, cornflakes, something. Mm-hmm. Come to find out, he would fix Rooster a bowl of cereal every night, too. And Rooster's last 6 months was laying on his side all puffed up, hard to breathe. I mean, but he had him a bowl of cereal every night.
It feels like there's 2 camps of people as far as names are concerned with dogs.
Mm-hmm.
They're either they name them something creative or they name them after a person.
They do. You kind of wonder where the names come from. I never knew.
I had some grandparents-in-law that had a dachshund, and they named her Kitty. So
wonder what happened.
Well, they'd let Kitty go outside and then call Kitty, here.
Kitty, holler, Kitty. Now, that's funny.
Yeah.
We bought a golden lab. We named him Scutch. And Scutch would eat gravel.
What the heck does Scutch
mean? You just pick a little gravel up in your hand and holler at him, "Hey, Scutch!" And he would come up and he would eat that gravel. Got to Tennessee, we bought a St. Bernard. Favorite animal ever. He was like a human. A human. Great animal. Great with little kids. Great with adults. He was just he was like a person. He was really odd. He's just like this kind, gentle person that had no idea. He weighed 150 pounds, and he had no idea. So he would want to sit in your lap.
Aww.
We'd go down to the creek, which is below my house, and play in the creek, and he would just have a great time. And you know how dogs get real excited when they're wet and they run? When we came up the hill back in the yard, that's the first thing he did. He would get a running start coming across the yard, and if you didn't get out of his way, he would jump right in the middle of your chest, and there's no way you could stand up. And he was a great dog.
And he's soaking wet.
That was Bogey. We named him Bogey because he won us over. Won over par, Bogey golf.
See what you did there.
Oh.
See,
Did you ever explain scutch?
I do not know where Scutch came from. That's just one of those things that came out of, what do you want to name it? Let's name him Scutch. Scutch Curd. He had a middle name. I don't know. I'm surprised as you are. And then we had a beagle named Sammy, and then a couple of cats over the years. But
The most surprising thing in all that, you went to college?
I did. Let me tell you what happened really quick. I went for a year and a half, and
Starsky and
let me tell you
Scutch.
when I quit. I was an artist. I went with the thought of becoming an architect. Art, I could see where architect would fall into that.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to go through all these art classes, like that first year or two. So I can recall
Art appreciation, yeah.
sitting. We went outside for an art class one day. It was my second year. And I remember sitting outside in a nice cool breeze under a tree. And there was this little platform that they'd set up out in front of a circle of us. And in a few minutes, out walked this lady with a bathrobe on. She stepped up on that platform and she dropped her bathrobe. And we were instructed to draw her in charcoal. And I'm sitting there, I actually started. But I'm sitting there and I got to thinking,
Okay.
I'm not sure this has anything to do with me making a living someday or even just existing. And it was kind of at that point I decided, maybe college is not for me.
I would have thought at that point you'd be like, sign me up for the next class. I'll be back next semester.
Life is weird sometimes, and this was one of those weird moments. It was just so bizarre to me, and I'm going like, this is kind of like a total waste of good time.
So like people just walking down the street could see this woman standing out there on the platform?
No, it was like in between some buildings in a little courtyard with some trees and stuff, and it was just really odd. But now, if you were like in these other classrooms around, yeah, you could look out there and draw your own picture if you wanted to.
How'd you do on that assignment? Did you make a good grade?
I don't remember. I really don't even remember. I don't remember finishing. I'm a pretty good artist. I'm sure it turned out good if I finished it. But anyway. Okay, so that was interesting. A good little. That had nothing to do with pets, by the way. I don't know why you did that, but
Just don't.
okay, so I don't even know what to say here, but I'm just going to say thanks for sticking with us this far. If you stick with us a little longer, we're going to come back and straighten up a little, talk about some stuff we found about us.
We'll be right back.
Thank you so much.
You'll never hear us say at Mike the Baptist that you need our logo t-shirts or hoodies. Just like you wouldn't hear us say that you need Barry White music. But now that Mike the Baptist has logo coffee mugs, we are a little tempted to point out that coffee would only have to taste better out of something that special, or a good hot cocoa, or a rich, smooth cappuccino in one of those brand new 11 or 15 ounce coffee mugs with that warm and inviting Mike the Baptist logo with the fake neon lettering. No, we'll never tell you that you need stuff, but we might remind you that it's not a sin to buy stuff like that, and that a little of the money you spend goes toward keeping Mike the Baptist on the air and in your head like a good Barry White album turned up to 7 while you do your taxes or trim those hedges. Find out more about the new logo coffee mugs and our t-shirts and hoodies with funny little sayings and our logo at www.mikethebaptist.com/merchandise.
Hey, welcome back. We try to get real somber, but we're not real somber. We just are what we are. But the good news about that is we believe the Bible. We do believe in the Bible. The stuff we read in it. We wouldn't be here, I don't think, if we didn't. We may be jovial at times and laugh and cut up and yeehaw, but I think bottom line is we believe what's in there. And this section of Mike the Baptist talks about some stuff we found in there. And we'll just turn it over to the preachers and have at it.
Cool. Well, so most of the studies this last week have been through Exodus, and we see Which those doggone Israelites, they've just been rescued and against the Egyptians trying to take them out, and they celebrated. And how long was it before they turned around and start going, "Oh, but my car is cold"? They're complaining about things, and I look at that in relationship to my life, and I don't go, "Is my car cold?" But I think about it the other way and think, do I thank God enough for the provision that He gives on a continual basis? And that's what I would ask you guys, is do you thank God enough? And is there something you can think of right now beside the not Sunday school answers? Don't say, "Oh, I'm thankful for life and I'm thankful for breath."
We have a button for that if you get churchy.
Yeah.
Called the buzzer.
Yes.
And we'll use it.
So, what are you thankful for?
Yeah, I think we do miss sometimes. Yeah, you should be thankful for the big things, but I think sometimes we forget we are totally dependent for everything. I mean, literally the breath in our lungs and the ability to just sit here, and have a good time and laugh with each other. If you don't know that, then go visit in a nursing home and see some of these people that are in their own kind of slavery. They're trapped in their body, and they can't enjoy life the way we can. And so I try to be thankful. I know I'm not enough, but I try to be thankful in the little things, and just be thankful that you're able to do what you're able to do. We had a young couple that had a shower last week, and you were supposed to write down on a popsicle stick just an easy date night. And I wrote on there, I said, get you a box of Krispy Kreme and go sit down by the lake and just sit there. And some people at the table were laughing, and I was like, I asked my wife what one of her favorite things was. We were sitting at the house one night, and I was like, "You want to ride down and get a box of Krispy Kreme?" And she's like, "Yeah." So we rode down and got a box of Krispy Kreme, a couple cups of coffee, and I just started driving. We wound up at the lake and just sat out there on a table and just had time, just real simple, probably less than $10 maybe, and we had just a good time. So I think just being thankful is important.
That is nice. It's I think about these stories in the Bible over and over and over again. These stories in the Bible seem to come back to people having it real cushy, and then just in no time they're mumbling and groaning and running in circles again, over and over and over again. And I think it's just like people. I think people just get bored too. Maybe, maybe we just kind of get a little bored at times, and seems like it. But I'm a happy guy, and a lot of the reason why is I'm just happy to be doing anything. I guess I am thankful. I may not say it in churchy ways all the time, but I enjoy life. I think life is a grand thing, albeit, has its downs, has its ups, but life is fun. It's an interesting thing. I'm thankful for that, whether I always say it or not. In fact, I'm not even one to always pray over a meal. You'd think somebody that does a churchy podcast and, semi-involved in the church, but I've always been kind of, I don't know if the word is funny about that, but I'm thankful for it, but I'm not always formal about that. Is that wrong?
Probably. No, I get what you're saying. And, again, we talk a lot about this thing called being in a relationship with God. It's not a format. It's a relationship. And so, if you feel compelled to pray out loud, pray out loud. If you don't feel compelled to do that in that moment, you can still be thankful for it. One of the things that I think we're not thankful enough for are boundaries that God gives us. God gives us boundaries to help us be better, and that was part of what God was doing with the Israelites. He's like, here's these rules to live by. Now, get this, rules to live by because you are my people, not rules to live by to be my people. We miss that sometimes.
Say that again. That was pretty good.
It's Excellent. The rules to live by because you are my people. not rules to live by, to become my people. God had brought them out of Egypt by his power, his might, brought them through the Red Sea. We might say that's baptism. Brings them and gives them the law, which is, this is how you act because you are one of my people. And so, there are just things in our life that God calls us to give up. There's things we're to take on, and there's things we're to give up. And so, I'd give an example of things we take on. Well, as a Christian, we should be reading our Bible. As a Christian, we should be going to church. Those are things that we take in. But then there's those things that we give up. Maybe we need to give up an addiction that we have. Maybe we need to give up a job. If a job is so all-encompassing and it uses up all of our time and we don't have any time with family. So can you think of specific things maybe that you guys have given up along the way where you look back and go, man, one of the best decisions I ever made?
I think maybe television for me.
Yeah.
Because television's pretty corrupted. And I can recall after I came to my senses around 97 and began to get more involved in my church, I began to feel uncomfortable with my television set. And I can recall going through this process. And, the conversations, I don't know if it was around that time or a little later. I think it was around that time that there were a lot of conversations in church circles I was involved in about R-rated movies, whether it was appropriate to watch those, and I think I thought early on that it wasn't really appropriate to watch an R-rated movie, not because it had an R on it, but because I kind of despise filthy language. There's something about that I just despise. It's just odd to me that anybody would have to use that to feel like they're seeming intelligent, because it's just the opposite happens. Old country boys say some things sometimes that I don't consider filthy. I consider some of that off color. But my television set, all that time was saying some really filthy things. It's just terribly uncomfortable. And not just to me, but I can recall how it felt to sit in a room with somebody else. Mm-hmm. And with this new thing inside of me, being saved, I guess you would call it, I felt even more uncomfortable about just, it playing on my television. So I got really self-conscious about that for a while and tried to kind of give most of that up. And I still do. If there's something, if I start a movie now and it's filled with that, I'm turning it off. I'm not going to watch it. Will Ferrell, I think he's hilarious. And I was up early one morning recently, and there are a few free HBO channels, and I check them a lot of mornings to see if there's anything interesting in a superhero movie or something. There's never anything on those, so I just, but out of habit, you go look. Well, there was an old movie with Will Ferrell, and I loved Will Ferrell. I thought, I'm going to watch a little of that. I watched about 5 minutes of it. It was straight up. I mean, it didn't go 10 seconds without something else coming out. I just couldn't watch it. I just turned it off. Anyway, so yeah, that's something I gave up. And
yeah,
it's hard to give it up because you run into it everywhere you turn.
And I think for me in some of those things, it's like I'm okay if I'm watching like a World War II movie, because if I got shot or a bomb was dropped off, I probably wouldn't go, shucky darn gee willikers. It's like you probably would be saying a few words there just because of the intensity of the scenario. Right. But you're right. So much of our culture now, it's either just that's their normal language, or they do it just to get the rating that they want.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes like, why? It's just like stories. You can tell a story about a young man, a young girl that fall in love without, having to take the camera into the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell the same story without all that. So I agree with you on that. I've gotten to a place where I've just like, I just don't even care to watch that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
One of the areas, for me, and this kind of happened over time, and it's one of those things you kind of look at and you go, I don't know if I like this or not, but we had boys in the house, and we thought it was important to protect the boys, like make sure what they're watching, what's on their phone, that kind of stuff. And so we bought this software program. Well, I put it on my computer as well, just to kind of hold me accountable. And I'll be honest with you. There's times when I get kind of flustered about it because I'm like, okay, I'm not trying to look up anything bad, but you type in a word that you're trying to go find something and it kicks up, or or your wife runs downstairs. What are you looking up? You're like, nothing, And so in some ways, I've given up my freedom to do some of those things, but I know it's for my betterment, and really, it's not a big deal. It's really not a big deal. But that flesh tells you, I don't like you holding me accountable. I want to be able to do it my way.
Yeah, a little rebel in everybody, kind of.
Yeah.
Well, that's the I want to be in control.
Yes,
part of that.
We're all, I think, a little like that.
I was thinking of what's that movie called, Bridge Over the River Kwai, and how exciting it was, and all the action in it. There's no foul language in that at all, and so I don't agree with the argument where people go, well, that's what it was like back then. I'm sure it was, but you can portray those things.
Right.
I mean, you think about all the older, because I'll go back and watch old Alfred Hitchcock, and it's scary. What's scarier to me is what he doesn't show.
Yes.
Right.
Because I still have an imagination.
Right.
And that was one of the things Hitchcock said was, I trust the audience has an imagination. I don't need to show them everything.
That's pretty brilliant right there.
Yes. But anyway, so if you think about being thankful and thanking God on a regular basis, it's almost like it needs to be, are you keeping track of that? Do you keep track of it because that's the part of it, or do you do it because you love God and you honestly want to thank Him? And in the midst of that, are we like the Israelites? Do we complain about things?
Yeah.
Do we ever grumble?
Yeah.
And I do. I was going to say the one thing that I gave up that to me was the biggest thing, because I had done some production work for big recognizable folks, but I used to listen to talk radio all the time. And I remember praying a number of years ago about what to give up for Lent. What am I going to give up that's going to give me more time to focus on God? And I felt like it was real clear. It was talk radio. And I'm like, oh, okay, no problem. So I get in the car and I'm driving and I go, oh, I've got the radio on. I'm listening to this commentator or that commentator. And it took a while to be intentional about it, to where I didn't want to, I always felt like a voyeur when I'm listening to, people talking about politics. It's like I'm listening in and I go for that. And how do you make those changes? And then I realized you can't change any of that. Whatever you change in politics, you're going to have to change it again another 4 years.
Yeah.
You can't make foundational change, and the way you do that is through godly things. You have to fill yourself with godly things and have that perspective before the changes that you make have eternal changes to them, eternal consequences and things. Does that make sense?
I learned something about that. If you're doing stuff for His cause, you wind up not having time to do things that are against His cause, because those things can fill up your time pretty quickly if you let them, and it's all good. You get tired, but it's a different kind of tired. And I guess it's the same with like you replace the listening to the language with good thoughts. Me, I guess I wind up writing a lot sometimes instead of listening and watching, and some of it comes out pretty good and clean with no cuss words. By the way,
speaking of which,
why is it when you're at the mall nowadays, or you're at a ball game, high school ball game, or you're at any event, why is it there are so many young kids all around you that are dropping F-bombs and talking that way as if it were nothing? Who is raising these kids, and why do they let them do that?
I don't know about you, but more than once I had soap or vinegar in my mouth.
Oh yeah, I threatened my daughter when she was real little one time with soap, and it freaked her out. I'm afraid it almost mentally scarred her, but she was scared to death about that. But she had a pretty clean mouth.
Well, part of
as far as I know,
part of that is what you were talking about before about the culture. and what is permitted in culture, and how much do you allow your children to be exposed to those kind of things. And I always remember when the first Michael Keaton Batman came out.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't wait to go see it, and somebody asked me, I went to the opening night, had to, good movie, and somebody asked me how it was, and I went, oh, it was great. There were a couple of GDs in it, but other than that, it was great.
Mm-hmm.
And the person said, oh, how many GDs are acceptable?
Ouch.
And I started thinking about,
Ouch.
from a historical perspective, when the scribes were transcribing scripture, if they made an error in it, they'd throw it away and start over from scratch. But the name of God, God's personal name, is so sacred that they wouldn't write it, which is, when you see in the Jewish culture, it's G_D, because that name is so sacred. So we've come a long way from, you don't even speak that to, oh, there's a couple in there, it's okay. Somebody intentionally put them in the script. So.
Yeah, not to stay on rabbit trails, but we've noticed in my household how that phrase is not edited out. That phrase is not censored on television, but simple, what we would consider curse words, are edited out. It's just like it's totally flipped, and it's like nobody's saying anything about that. Why? Interesting. All right, that was way off what you're originally talking about, but
that's a good. It's just a reminder that we're constantly being dragged down by the things of this world. God's purpose is to lift us up, and you brought up a concept of complaint, and we see that the Israelites, they haven't been out of Egypt for a few days, and they complain that they want to go back to slavery, and they say that constantly. Did you just bring us out here to die? Did you, and so we really don't understand that what God is doing is God is changing us, even through the difficulties that we don't like. God is using those things to change us. I heard just the other day, this guy said, quit being so upset about politics. Have you ever thought this is what God is doing to get our attention? Quit praying that God would put the right person in there and fix your America. Maybe God is trying to shake us to the core to get our attention, so then he can speak. And it's just a good reminder, is that, we can complain about a lot of stuff in life, and I don't think it means we have to like everything that happens to us in life, but our attitude of gratitude should outweigh our complaints. We shouldn't be a complaining people. And I swear, sometimes Christians seem like the most ungrateful, complaining people you've ever seen.
Well, yeah, they can do that. We got to
do better, right? We got to do better.
I'll say this: it's a great planet.
Yes,
it really is. It's a great planet. Happy to be here. Did we get anywhere close to where you all started out?
I think that's a pretty good overview of what we saw in Exodus. Yeah. Thankfulness. What do we need to give up? What do we need to deal with in our own personal life? And then think about our attitude. Are we grumpy? I don't know about you guys, but we kind of laugh and say, in our house, we don't want to be those people. We don't want to be those grumpy old people.
Yeah.
That all they can talk about is they hadn't gone to the bathroom, and America's not the way it used to be.
You just don't want to be around that all the time.
Just don't want to be that, Just want to look for the positive.
Now, we all got to vent just a little.
Oh, absolutely. Venting's okay, but I think it becomes so much in our DNA that that's all we can do. Again, think through this. When the walls of Jericho fell, Rahab's house did not. And though our whole world may be falling around us, God's not going to let us fall. We're going to die. We're going to get sick. We're going to have problems and probably have some complaints. But we need to think about those complaints and go, you know what? God put this in my life for a reason. Maybe he's trying to get my attention. Maybe he's trying to speak to somebody else. And so, try to find ways to to be jovial. I like you said that earlier, that you're just pretty much a jovial person. I think we should be.
Might as well be.
Well,
Yeah.
it is a great planet.
It is a great planet.
Should put that on a shirt.
That's a good idea. Maybe we'll offer that soon on a T-shirt. Mike the Baptist. I can see it now. It's a great planet. And there'll be a website, www.mikethebaptist.com, and you can order. What a great idea,
That'd
Neil.
be great.
Neil the Andrews. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I was just thinking while y'all were saying that right there to maybe kind of move along here that if you happen to be listening to this and you don't consider yourself saved like these Christian people, if you happen to be listening and you're that, I hope you just noticed that there's 3 Christian men right here who are talking about being grumblers ourselves.
Yep.
It happens. I guess the difference I can think of that if you're not a Christian, if you're not saved, as they say, you don't have anywhere after the grumbling to go with that. You don't have really, it's just over. It's a grumble, and it stays a grumble. I think we all have, on the other hand, a way to look at that where it's a grumble, but it's going to be okay. There's something else going on inside that makes it okay, that makes it a great planet.
Yep.
Even when we're grumbling, even when we got stuff to grumble about, because I got stuff to grumble about. We got stuff to grumble about. But I think that's a plus. So as I've heard it said on here before, why don't you give this a shot? You too can be jovial as we. Maybe that's not the thing to shoot for, but there is something to that.
Yeah.
There's something having this peace inside you that's, I think the Bible says something about not being able to understand it. I don't understand it, but I sure like it. And I'm going to enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Speaking of enjoying it, why don't we take a break, come back and play Inny or Outty? That's usually fun. It's going to take a lot to top Neil's homeless cat story, but I think we can give it a shot. We'll be back.
Hey everybody, it's time to play America's almost favoriteest new game show, Inny or Outty, where we challenge our guests to figure out if a phrase we give them is actually in the Bible or out of the Bible. Sharpen your wits, guest. You're about to be in the hot seat of Bible stuff, because you're the next contestant on Inny or Outty. Here's Mike.
Hey, welcome back. I'm not going to go through it. It's Inny or Outty. It's either in there or it's out, right? It's an Inny or it's Outty.
It's pretty simple, isn't it?
It's either in the Bible or it's out of the Bible. Inny or Outty. Not going to explain it again. We are going to play it, though, however. HD is going to be in the power seat once. Neil's going to be in the power seat once. I have 2 opportunities to lose. But I'm used to it, so let's just do it. H.
Let me offer you up a simple one. It's just a one word.
Okay.
Is it in there? Is it not?
These are the hardest ones right here, I think.
The word is, I feel like I'm playing password, school.
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 See, these are the hardest, I think. So immediately you think, was there school back in the days when they wrote this?
No, there was temple.
Did they call it school, though?
I know.
Was there a bus?
Was there gasoline?
Was there a free lunch program?
Right. Were there erasers?
Did they have proms?
What did you do in those days when you were writing with stones and stuff? If you need to erase something, you would have to get a new stone or something, wouldn't you? No, they had ink in those days, didn't they? They were writing on.
Bob Dylan wrote about that, didn't he? Everybody get stoned.
He did.
Everybody, let's get, yeah.
That's not
Now we're
in
back
there.
to get buzzed on Mike the Baptist.
Side item, there's a Bruce Springsteen song. You were talking about television?
Yes.
It's called 57 Channels and Nothing On.
He's got a song?
Oh, he did.
School. Is it in the Bible?
School. You know,
Thank you.
gut reaction says no, Neil.
I'm guessing no, but
Oh, you are too?
yeah.
We're in agreement
I think
here.
so. Just that word, there may be.
Yeah, the concept. I mean, we always talk about the concept. You can say the concept about anything, though, and talk your way into it. Yeah, I don't think the word school's in there. H looks a little happy,
Hebrew
like
school.
we may be wrong.
Yeah.
Hebrew what?
Hebrew school, where that's.
But that's something they do now, isn't it?
They do. They did then, but I don't know that they called it that.
Hebrew school. I wonder why they write backwards. I've never understood that.
Why do we write backward?
I don't understand that either, now that you bring that up. I'm inclined to say that's an outie.
I'll go with you.
We're in agreement?
Sure.
This may be the shortest conversation about an Inny or outie in Mike the Baptist history. I don't know. I'll have to go back to the records and look. But are we?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We're saying it's an outie. H.
Well, that's a shame. Because in the King James Version, now I have to say it this way. In the King James Version, Acts 19:9, I have learned to cite my references because I get challenged so often.
By your wife, mainly.
That was the school of Tyrannus or something
Really?
like that. Yeah.
So it was in there.
School's in there. In the King James Version, which is the only authorized version of the Bible in English.
What did you say?
19:9.
Just to sound smarter than I actually am, I'm curious to know why the word school would have been used in those days. See? That's almost kind of an intelligent question, I'm just going to say. I don't guess any of us have an answer for that, but...
Do you have another version? Is it different?
Well, I was going to use it for my question. I thought it was really good.
Oh, okay.
Because it says in here, but when some became hardened and would not believe, slandering the way in front of the crowd, he withdrew from them, taking the disciples, and he conducted discussions every day in the lecture hall of Tyrannus.
Lecture hall is school. Interesting.
There you go.
That was the one word ones. I think are good.
They're difficult, aren't they?
Because they can. It makes you think, though. That's one thing I do like about Inny or Outty. It makes you think, and and laugh. Makes you think and laugh.
Got to.
Both are good things. Okay, we have one loss, which I was involved in. I may be involved in another one right now, as Neil takes the power seat and asks us something.
Neil's going to read for just a minute here.
Oh, okay.
In Luke.
Well, if he's in the Bible, if he's reading the Bible, I'm in.
So Luke 12.
It's a sly man that names his cat Miss Kitty.
Yes.
See?
And plays Inny or Outty by reading the Bible.
And. There's a lot of ands there. Okay.
So Luke 12, it's what do I want to say? It's metaphor for what's going to happen in the end, in the end, or the beginning, as we would probably say. But it's talking about. It says, for instance, truly I tell you, stop it. He will put him in charge of all his possessions. But if the servant says in his heart, my master is delaying his coming, and he starts to beat the male and female servants and to eat and drink and get drunk, that servant's master will come on a day he does not expect him, and at an hour he does not know. He will cut him to pieces and assign him a place with the unfaithful. So that's metaphor, right?
Gotcha.
Okay.
And that servant who knew his master's will and didn't prepare himself or do it will be severely beaten. How many... In the Bible, how many levels does it say there are in hell? Because it's differentiating, some people will receive worse punishment than others. I mean, that's how I had read that. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Okay, so surprise, I'm a little confused because you read a bunch of stuff. And then you ask how many levels are there in hell.
Right.
Were you talking about levels in hell, what you read, or did I miss something?
I'm talking about the
punishments.
The punishments will be...
Oh, because that's a metaphor for...
Right. That is metaphoric for, depending on...
Did you say that's a metaphor for?
I did. It's a metaphor for. I did. Now that
makes it
8. That's a metaphor for.
As opposed to a tutu.
Silly. That's silly right there.
Oh, yeah.
Tutu.
Well, so the question was, how many levels are there in hell?
Right.
Well, I don't know.
What's the Bible say?
But I guess we're going to guess. Do you know, H? Well, you have some idea.
It's, yeah,
And are there levels?
yeah. That's a.
That's the problem with being a
Yeah.
preacher is you have to be sort of correct on some of these, right?
Also, so you can just go with your gut answer and be okay.
You can use that. It gets you out of a jam once in a while.
Right. I do. I will say that's a interpretation issue because some people will say there are levels of punishment.
Mm-hmm.
There are different levels of punishment, which sounds reasonable because we have levels of punishment here. Although the real punishment of being in hell is that you're absent from the presence of God
Forever.
Right.
forever. So how much worse can it get?
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking there's one level of that punishment. When you're there, you're there.
I'll be honest though, I've heard preachers talk about, for some reason in my mind, the 7 levels of hell come up. I don't know. It's weird to not have an answer to this, but I really think doctrinally, I think, the biggest issue is that it's eternal separation from God. And I'm not sure how can it get any worse? I mean, if he is the supreme being of all time that we're to love and have fellowship with, I mean, it's like being deader and deadest, so.
Well, to me, if you're if you're standing in the middle of a fire and it's 2,000 degrees where you're standing, to turn that up to 3,000 degrees to me is like, and
exactly, yeah.
My gut says, but now he specifically asked how many levels are there.
Yeah.
So by him specifically asking, he must be reading something that indicates there are. So I would go with what you've heard. Did you say 6 or 7?
I'm just saying that I might just be throwing out a number. I may be hypoglycemic.
You could be. That's where you go with your gut.
Yeah.
My gut says.
I don't know.
My gut says 2.
Are we supposed to pick a number or say
I
it's
don't
in
know.
or out?
He said how many.
Oh.
Maybe you should give us a number and then we'll tell you if that's in or out.
How many levels does the Bible say are in hell?
Oh, 1.
I know that's not the right answer, but
We got to have one though.
Yep.
So, but now, actually, we should use your answer instead of mine.
that sounded pretty good. 1.
1? Are we going with 1?
Yeah, let's go with 1.
So we're saying that 1 level of hell is an Inny, right?
I don't know.
I'm trying to structure this so we don't totally lose.
Possibly not lose.
1? I mean, I know, according to our conversation, 1 is just as bad as the other, so that would make me and
How many
you.
levels of heaven are there?
See,
Paul talks about being called to the 3rd heaven, but that's not necessarily a level inside the kingdom of God. It's more of Earth's atmosphere, space, and he said, I'm up here above all of that.
right?
And we know there's not accommodation, there's rewards for us in heaven, but I don't know that there's going to be a trailer park in heaven. Like, hey,
Right.
look, all these Billy Graham's up there in his mansion, and we're down here, and
Right.
we call them little pup tents they got now. What do they call those? Glamping. We'll be glamping down by
right.
the river. Yeah. I'm so confused.
I am too. But I'm afraid not having a degree in it to put a number on it. I mean, just solely by myself.
You could have had a degree, but you dropped out because
Yes, that's true.
Because of art
I
class.
didn't make it to the theology classes. My charcoal art class stopped me from getting to the theology. I'll tell you what, Neil. Why don't you ask us
How about can we
there
say
are levels of hell
less
in the
than
Bible.
10? We can
Inny
say
or
less
Outty.
than 10.
If you say there are levels in the Bible of hell, is that an Inny or an Outty? Then we look a little better if we get it wrong.
Okay, that sounds
Does
good.
that make sense?
No.
Like
I just want to know the answer.
instead of us giving a number.
See, we've got it so confused. We don't know if we're win or
No,
lose.
I'm trying to save us here. If we give a number and we're like 10 off, we're going to look real silly. But if we just say, yes, there are levels, then if he's trying to trick us and he's got a few in mind, then we're kind of safe because we
Okay.
said yes.
Yes.
So if you tell us, Neil, are there levels of hell in the Bible, and we say, yes, that's an Inny, what would you say to us?
I would say the only place that I see anything about levels of hell is in Dante's Inferno.
Oh, whew, thank goodness. Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
See?
Yeah. Yeah. Good. See,
You
so
see
we
what
were
happened?
right.
What happened right there was we're wrong, but we scraped by and don't look as bad as if we had said 6. I think.
No, because we said one level.
Oh, wait, so we're actually,
Kind of okay.
1.
Yeah. This has been the weirdest episode.
It really has. Neil, did we win or lose right there?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
As long as we're not going to visit there,
Yes.
we win.
We're good. You know what? I'm going to come up with a new sound effect for this situation. It's not a cheer, and it's not the big lose thing. It's going to be. That's pretty good.
Things that make you go,
That was one of them. It's a great question, though, because
But I have heard people preach on that there are levels of punishment.
I would guess denominationally there are differences in all.
yes.
well, there definitely are
Yeah.
that.
I mean,
know.
there's a couple guys that I really respect their teaching, and they harbor on that.
Yeah.
They harbor on that sometimes, and I'm like, again, I come back to the point of
Yeah.
the ultimate pain and suffering of hell
This is
Yes.
eternal separation.
is being separated from God.
You don't want to
Right.
go to any of it.
Now,
So
well, I'm kind of like you, 2,000 degrees or 2,010 degrees, whoop-de-doo, I'm away from God.
yeah.
You know, we have levels of condemnation based upon the level of offense.
Mm-hmm.
But that one is the level of offense is that you rejected Christ.
Yep.
Okay, so you were a murderer and you rejected Christ. Well, you rejected. That's the worst thing ever.
It's scary.
Yeah,
It should be.
yeah. So
All right. I'm glad we had this little talk. We'll take a
Twilight
break.
Zone. No, what you need is that like the Twilight Zone music right there.
Oh, yes.
Because, like,
yes.
whew.
Yes, because that was all sorts of things.
We got some kids. We're really messing up this.
Oh no, they went to do something else a little while ago. Speaking of that, we'll take a break, come back, tell you goodbye in a nice, proper fashion. Churchy, not churchy, but a nice. We'll be there.
Oh, wow. What a great contestant and a fine sport today on Inny or Outty, America's almost favorite new game show. Study up, future guest people. You're next in the hot seat for Inny or Outty.
Hey, we're back, and the only reason we came back is just because that last section was so taxing mentally that we needed just a quick break so that when we came back, we could tell you it's a great planet in good conscience and be happy about it.
You're going to get shirts with that on it.
It's in the works. It's already in the works. It's already done. But anyway, that's beside the point. Thanks for being with us. Thanks, H.D. Jones. Thank you, Neil V. Andrews. And I'm Mike the Baptist, and we hope to see you again here in about a week. We'll be back if you will. We'll be back if you're not. But you know what? If you're not, you won't know.
But we don't.
And there,
If we don't come back, what a great trick that would be.
That's Houdini.
Anyway, it's a bizarre day, but it's over. So. Hey, remember, folks, we're all just Christians.
Trying not to.
guys.
Exactly. Not gonna do it. Again.
Mike the Baptist.